Imagine this. A fairy tale honeymoon. You're thinking misty hills, waterfalls, the dream escape. But then it just twists into a nightmare, like straight out of a thriller. That's really the story of Raja and Sonam Raghuvanshi. Newlyweds from Indore on their honeymoon in Meghalaya. Should have been perfect. But then, May 23rd, 2025, they disappear. Vanish. Soon after, Raja's body is found. And Sonam, she turns up miles and miles away in Ghazipur, Uttar Pradesh. So in this deep dive, we want to look beyond just the who and how. We really need to dig into the why because, well, it seems to point to some much deeper societal issues.
Absolutely. And what's truly fascinating here isn't just the crime itself, as tragic as it is. It's what sort of unravels about relationships in India today. It's complex. We're going to try and peel back some layers, expectations, the intense pressure, how love and commitment are changing, and the initial shocker, the allegation that Sonam herself hired hitmen. Plus, the Meghalaya DGP, Anand Grang, made this cryptic comment. Said the motive doesn't sit very well. That tells you there's more to it, doesn't it?
It really does. So, okay, let's unpack this piece by piece. This young couple starting out heading to beautiful Meghalaya, and the police response was, well, incredibly fast.
Remarkably so. I mean, the Meghalaya police cracked this whole thing in just 7 days, which is pretty extraordinary given the circumstances.
Right. So who were the key players arrested?
Well, they picked up 3 suspects initially from Madhya Pradesh, Akash Rajput, Vishal Singh Chauhan, and Raj Singh Kushwaha. Then a 4th, Anand, soon after. But the real bombshell, as you said, was Sonam surrendering in Ghazipur, and the police saying she was the mastermind. Hired them.
Wow. And how did they piece it together so quickly? Any key clues?
Yeah, a few things seem crucial. There's a trekking guide who tipped them off. Said he saw Sonam and Raja with 3 other men around the time Raja went missing.
Okay, that's significant.
Definitely. And then, the usual modern police work, CCTV footage, following digital trails.
Yeah.
It eventually led them to Sonam near a dhaba, like a roadside diner, on the Varanasi-Ghazipur road.
But that motive remains murky, like the DGP suggested.
Exactly. Mysterious. It leaves you wondering, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What unseen forces could push someone to do something so unthinkable, especially within a marriage? This isn't just, a single crime story. It's like a big flashing sign pointing towards deeper things going on in society.
And that brings us right to it, doesn't it? The great Indian marriage machine. That's where this gets really interesting. Because let's face it, marriage in India, it's more than just a custom. It feels like a national sport sometimes. The pressure starts almost from birth, right? Find that suitable match, preferably by 25.
Oh, absolutely. The pressure is immense.
You've got arranged marriages, love marriages, and then this sort of awkward hybrid, the arranged come love thing. But the underlying message is always get hitched. Or, you're failing everyone, your family, your community, maybe all 1.4 billion of us.
It's a powerful force. And if you connect that back to this case or just the bigger picture, you see how this obsession often completely ignores whether the couple is actually, compatible.
Right. It's not really about that sometimes.
No. It's like trying to pair, a brand new smartphone with a charger from 1995. Just because the plug kind of fits doesn't mean it's going to work properly.
Good analogy.
So for Sonam and Raja, you have to ask, was this marriage their choice, a real choice? Or was it just fulfilling a societal mandate? Were there whispers of pressure, unmet expectations?
Things we don't see on the surface.
Exactly. Because in India, marriage isn't just 2 people. It's a merger. Families, caste, class, sometimes even horoscopes are involved. It's huge. And the pressure, particularly on women, to just slide into the ideal wife role, cook, smile, manage everything, never question the script, it can be suffocating.
And when that script just doesn't fit the person?
Well, sometimes it leads to quiet resentment, smoldering away. But other times, as we might have seen here, tragically, it leads to something much, much worse.
It's chilling to think about. And sadly, this isn't the first time a honeymoon has ended in tragedy under suspicious circumstances. It has echoes, doesn't it?
It really does. There's an eerie parallel to a case from over a decade ago. Back in 2010, the murder of Anni Dewani.
Yes, I remember that case. Terrible.
She was a Swedish woman, Indian origin, murdered on her honeymoon in South Africa. She and her husband, Raja Dewani, were in a taxi near Cape Town, Ghazipur Township. They were hijacked.
And Shreen was released, but Annie was found dead, shot.
That's right. 3 men were convicted, the driver, Zol Durango, and 2 others, Zwamadota Kwabe and Asoli Majini. But their stories kept changing. At points, they alleged Shreen had actually hired them.
But he was acquitted, wasn't he?
He was, yeah, in 2014. The trial had a lot of issues, inconsistencies. It left Annie's family, well, with more questions than answers, really. Her father, Vinod Hindocha, still speaks about the pain, the lack of closure. They just want the truth.
God, the parallels are stark. Newlyweds, exotic location, accusations of betrayal.
It's deeply unsettling. Both cases force you to look at trust, love, and these huge pressures around marriage. What connects them is this sort of shadow of societal expectations. Annie and Shriyan's relationship, for example, was apparently quite troubled even before their big, lavish wedding in Mumbai.
So underlying tensions.
Right, which brings us back to Raja and Sonam. What unspoken issues were bubbling beneath the surface there? Were they victims of their own choices? Or victims of a system that pushes people into marriages they aren't ready for? Or maybe don't even want?
It really makes you think about where Indian society is today with relationships. Things are changing, aren't they? Slowly, maybe, but it feels undeniable.
Definitely. We're seeing more people choosing to stay single longer or choosing not to marry at all. Live-in relationships are more visible, though still controversial. People delaying marriage.
And dating apps. Tinder, Bumble. Younger Indians seem to be exploring relationships on their own terms much more. It's such a contrast to, parents maybe still scrolling through matrimonial sites.
It is a huge contrast. But this change, it definitely comes with growing pains. You see pushback. Like, look at Uttarakhand's Uniform Civil Code Bill from 2024. It requires live-in couples to register. There are penalties if you don't.
Wow, really? Registering a live-in relationship?
Yeah. And critics see it as, well, a step backward, more about enforcing a certain morality than reflecting how people actually live now. So you have this clash, the push for traditional marriage versus a generation demanding choice, demanding autonomy.
And when that choice feels stifled, things can get messy.
Exactly. And statistics, unfortunately, sometimes bear that out. You see reports about rising crimes against women, for instance. Prime Minister Modi talked about violence against women in his 2024 Independence Day speech, acknowledged the issue. But, systemic change. It's slower than we'd like.
Right. So let's get right down to it. Why? Why this intense obsession with marriage? It's not just India, of course, but here it feels dialed up to 11, like a religion almost.
It really does.
Parents saving for weddings before kids can walk, the relentless pressure to settle down.
Yeah.
Single at 30, you might as well be from Mars. Divorced. Oh, the whispers, the side eyes. It's intense social stigma.
And that very obsession, that pressure cooker environment, it can lead straight to rushed decisions, mismatched couples. And in the worst cases, like we're discussing, absolute tragedy. When marriage is treated like this one-size-fits-all solution, this mandatory life stage, it just completely ignores the complexity of people, of relationships. Not every marriage is meant to be a happily ever after. Sometimes it's just unsustainable pressure waiting to blow.
So what's the alternative? How do we change that?
Well, for starters, maybe stop treating marriage like the final exam you have to pass by 25. We need to normalize talking openly about relationships, compatibility, challenges, choices. Maybe schools and colleges could even teach stuff like emotional intelligence, conflict resolution, healthy partnerships. Sounds a bit dry? Maybe. But it's better than learning through heartbreak. Or worse.
Okay, here's a thought. What if we put as much stock in counseling as we do in wedding planners?
Now there's an idea.
Seriously, though, in India, therapy is still so stigmatized, like admitting failure. But relationships are hard. Sometimes you just need a referee, right?
You absolutely do. Professional counseling could be huge, helping couples tackle issues before they fester into resentment or, violence. There are civil society groups doing great work, but they're stretched thin. The government could really step up here.
How so?
Well, funding community counseling centers, maybe. Awareness campaigns. Imagine billboards saying, talk it out before you take it out, instead of just marry by 25 or you're doomed.
That would be a shift.
And we need to talk about toxic masculinity, too.
Yeah.
How it pressures men to bottle everything up. That leads to frustration. Men and women both need safe spaces to talk without judgment. Because, let's be real, nobody wins when things end up like that.
No, absolutely nobody wins. This Raja Raghuvanshi case, it really feels like a wake-up call, a big one. It's not just about solving this specific murder. It's about rethinking how we even approach relationships in India, fundamentally. We need to actually embrace diversity in how people choose to live in love. Same-sex couples, live-in couples, people choosing to be single. It all needs space and respect. Look at Thailand legalizing same-sex marriage in 2024. It shows even societies with strong traditions can evolve.
Which begs the question, why can't we? And linked to that is consent, real consent. Not just, in the bedroom, but consent to the marriage itself. in the first place.
Such a crucial point. Nobody should feel forced into it because it's time or what will people say.
Exactly. If we want to prevent more tragedies like Raja's, like Annie's, we have to build a culture where saying no to marriage or to a specific partner is just as valid, just as respected as saying I do.
So where does the Raghuvanshi investigation stand now?
Well, it's ongoing. The police in Meghalaya are still putting the pieces together. Sonam's motive. That's still the big question mark. Social media is obviously buzzing with theories. The truth is probably, somewhere in the complex middle. But what's clear is this case has hit a nerve. It's really exposed these fault lines in society.
It really has. The Raja Raghuvanshi murder is just so much more than a headline. It's like holding up a mirror to our society, showing the flaws. We've come a long way, sure. Women have more agency. Young people are demanding freedom. But we've still got miles to go before we can say we truly respect individual choice in relationships.
That's agreed.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. Let's make a deal. Okay. The next time you're at a family thing and someone asks, so when are you getting married? Maybe just try saying, when I'm ready. Not a minute sooner.
Yeah.
Let's try to normalize taking our time, choosing wisely, getting help if things get tough, because love should lift you up. It shouldn't lead you to a crime scene. We really hope this deep dive into what is a truly tragic story has given you some things to think about that dance between what we want as individuals and what society expects. Because understanding these dynamics, that's really the first step towards building a world that's more supportive, more understanding for everyone.
Yeah. And ultimately, I think to honor Raja, to honor Sonam, we have to keep working towards a society where love is genuinely a choice, not some kind of sentence. And maybe sometimes just having a little chuckle at the absurdity of all the pressure. Maybe that's the only way to keep from crying.